Sharing the screen.
All right, I have 8 o'clock. We are now back in regular session. So, can you go back to that one thing then and officially unlock that in case anyone would like to rejoin or join that?
All
There
right.
we go. Now we are ready for advisory reports. City Administrator.
Well, I do. Just quickly. This should be we should be pretty close to heading into budget discussion right now. And with this stuff, I'm delayed. I think we're delayed at least a month in those kind of talks right now. But had another one of these multi Zoom meetings with the county managers and city administrators, city managers from around the county about what they're doing, what their concerns are with budget implications from this, and really they kind of span a spectrum of almost really deep concern. Overland Park is very reliant on sales tax, and they have the convention center and hotel that they're financially very intertwined with, and so they're putting out fires now to make sure that their 2020 budget and operations can continue. There are other cities in the county that won't be very impacted much at all. Their sales tax is just from a couple grocery stores, and so they're not as worried. We lie somewhere in the middle. So just so you're aware, I've started crunching some numbers, looking at long term just projections for this year and long term projections. There's really no way of knowing what's going to occur with the sales tax, and actually, the state just came out with their March collections, and actual through March are up above what they estimated and 3% higher than they were last year. And at least half of March was on lockdown. So that's an encouraging sign. But nobody expects that to continue. And so most of the cities around are looking at decreases in sales tax, this year's sales tax, anywhere between 10 and 30% in tax collections this year. Beyond this year, no one on that conference call really had any great ideas about how to model that, what to look at for future projections. For DeSoto, we're in a really good financial position. We ended last year with a general fund balance of 2.3 million, and I'm gonna show this. I'll pull up this. I think I'm sharing my screen with those of you that are on the video. Oh heck, sorry. This Christmas looking thing. So this is showing, these green bars are showing year-ending fund balance, and this green line is showing fund balance as a percentage of operating revenue. This is that one is like what you've seen before. Before any of this hit, this is what we were looking at. Fund balance ending 2019 at $2.3 million. 2020 numbers here on the green column assume the budget, essentially our this year's budget, and then moving out. And you see this fund balance remains, above 30% of operating revenues. The red columns, what I've assumed here is a 20% reduction in sales tax collections this year. And then moving on from that, I'm assuming a recession that's modeled after the 2008, 2009 years, where we had an 8% reduction between 2008 and 2009, and then a further 3% reduction in sales tax the next year. So these would be the fund ending balances, and this assumes that we're not making any adjustments to expenditures. Obviously, we're not going to do this. But so that's kind of how that chart would play out in that scenario. This chart here is probably a little more descriptive of the sales tax exactly. So the blue stuff is what we had projected before. I'm sorry, the red here is what we had projected before all this happened, and the blue results. These are just sales tax revenue. If we assume the 20% reduction this year, a further 8 the next year, and 3 the year after that, and then a very gradual increase. So that's kind of what happened in 2008 and 2009. Big reduction in 9, smaller reduction in 10, and then some gradual increases after that. Obviously, when I do plan on presenting some of this actually all of this analysis at the next meeting in April. And I'm not sure we're going to be necessarily into the budget per se, but I've asked department heads to take a look at this year budget and see what they would have to do to maintain minimum levels of service with an across the board 20% reduction in their budget, just to see what that looks like. If we could do that without layoffs, without additional furloughs, and that sort of thing. Beyond beyond this year, no one has any guess, and I don't think we will have any guess for at least throughout the course of what normally is our budget discussions. I don't think we're going to really have a good idea what next year looks like before the fourth quarter starts of this year. Um, so I don't know. Conventional wisdom would say you kind of keep your powder dry, and I think that's what that's what I'd recommend at this time, at least for the next 60 to 90 days. Um, I know we just approved some projects here tonight. Those aren't massive stuff. We don't have massive projects in this year's CIP. We got some design, but we're not spending millions of dollars. The bond, our CIP calls for a $750,000 bond this year. I don't think I don't think we'll, I don't think the bond markets are in a position where we can do that, even if we wanted to. CIP fund is liquid enough to go ahead and implement this year's projects without that bond. We'll have to make up for it next year, or we'll have to start talking about delaying projects and redoing the CIP. I just wanted to give you this snapshot of kind of the thought process right now, and we're not alone. Every city in the county is doing this right now in preparation for their budget coming up. So I'll continue down this path. We might be in a position where we look at kind of parallel budgets for 2021. One that assumes the worst and another that assumes not exactly the worst, and see where we are in August. Just there's just so many unknowns, and only time is going to tell some of this. So I wanted you to be aware of kind of the discussions and my mindset moving through this from a financial standpoint.
Any thought on holding off on the design phase of the roundabout? I mean, we have that out, I think, right now.
Yeah, it's out right now.
Pretty early, like April 24th. You had that coming back.
Yeah.
I tell you my thought on that, and Rick, you can weigh in on this as well. I guess one of the questions I was going to ask is another game changer is going to be what comes down the pike for infrastructure stimulus. And the talk right now is another $2 trillion infrastructure stimulus plan. And what I'm trying to find out through like ACC is how much of that's going to trickle to local government, and hopefully a fair amount is. Mike, I don't know what you might be hearing through like the League of Municipality type organizations, but I think something that could be a game changer is going to be infrastructure stimulus, because it is going to come about. And I would advocate that we keep up with the design, because in the event that the city can get access to funding of infrastructure projects, then those are job creators, those are economic stimulators. I think we need to be prepared with design projects.
Okay. Shovel ready is good if you have a big pile of money for infrastructure.
Shovel ready is good, Rick. I don't know what you're hearing out on that front, but I don't know if you're plugged into ACC Missouri or not.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm not hearing much out of ACC Kansas yet, but I do know that there is going to be a massive infrastructure program coming up, and that could be what begins to offset the shortage in sales tax revenue for the municipalities. And Mike, I'd encourage you to figure out, to keep your ear to the ground on what's happening there.
Yeah, but part of that's also going to end up who controls how those funds go, and that's where Kansas City, Missouri, and St. Louis over Missouri are having fun with the current stimulus because the two counties have enough people to get the money. The cities don't, so the counties are controlling the money, not the cities. So it's all going to come down to, like you said, does the local municipality have control of the money, or are we going to be asking the county for it or the state for it? So,
well, and Rob, to that end, Mike, if you can get line of communication with KDOT secretary and figure out what they're talking about and how that could trickle down through, federal money trickling down through KDOT. Because yes, Rob, we don't want to get trapped in, the metro allocations, but rather what may come down through KDOT.
It'd be great.
I think we need to pay attention to it. And at the end of the day, Mike, you're plugged in with all the other public officials. I think that's something that hopefully plugs this sales tax gap.
Yeah, good point. Good point. What struck me with the other the managers anyway, is just how consumed they are with the current fire. I mean, nobody seemed to have an appetite to think about 2021. That surprised me. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I think in the next 30 days, when we know what this infrastructure package is going to look like, that could hopefully settle people's fear.
Yeah.
I think the next 30 to 60 will shed a lot of light on a lot of stuff, depending upon how long the quarantines go or stay at home goes, how the infrastructure, stimulus, all of that's going to shake out, and we'll know long term, short term, what everybody's looking at as far as how long it's going to take to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Comments, Lori? Anything?
Nope. Nothing really in particular, other than just as we're moving forward, just really be aware of what we're doing before we do it, as far as money and where we're spending it. And I'm not against going ahead and planning for the infrastructure, like you say, Kevin. It's a good idea to have that done, so if there is money. But just be careful before we pull plugs on things and know where we're sitting overall. Because personally, I feel it's going to be a while before this gets back to normal life. I don't think it's a month or two.
I think we need to prepare. Just overall, CIP stimulus aside, overall, I think it's prudent to prepare for a significant recession.
Yeah, and we just
years long.
We just need to be able to cut back if we have to, and there most of the things that we have in our CIP are things that can wait, and they will wait if they have to.
Right.
There's not a lot of have to do things that we have going on right there. So.
Yep. Okay.
What's your next item, Mike?
The only other thing is just a little good news update on the bathrooms down at Riverfest Park. There they are.
Sweet.
They look good.
It's all plumbed up.
Actually, the concrete got poured today, but they should start laying brick next week. And Steve reports, within a month they'll be operational.
Ready for the concerts.
Ready for the concerts.
Well, it's good we chose these single stall ones. That way they can be used and there are not too many people in one area.
That's right. Right. Social distancing appropriate.
Yeah, Lori, that was just strange.
Where's the paper?
Okay.
Oh, there won't be toilet paper in these.
No toilet paper, though. No. Bring your own. Bring your own leaves from the woods.
Should have fitted them with a French bidet.
You'd never be able to keep it in there.
Toilet paper, though.
Okay. That's all from me.
Okay. City Attorney.
Nothing for me.
City Clerk.
Nothing from me, Mayor.
All right. City Council comment. I'm going to start with Danny Lane. Danny, do you have anything for us?
The only thing I wanted to thank Mike and Patrick and for work on the technology and keeping up with everything and keeping us on cue. And Rick, I'd also like to thank you as a crooner for keeping Easter in mind and doing such a good job with that. I know other people may not know it, but he's trying to keep things as normal as possible during this time of crisis. And I'd like to thank the mayor for doing that. So that's all I had tonight, Mayor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. Kevin Ritter.
Thanks, sir. I have nothing for this evening. Thank you.
All right. Kevin Hanemichael.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to acknowledge Mike and getting set up with the the distance meeting opportunity here. I think this is working really well. I really wanted to do it remotely, and it was very effective meeting capability. We could share the material well, so that was very good. The only other thing I was going to comment on, Mike already took care of, and that was the budget issue relative to infrastructure planning. So Mike is a step ahead of where we need to be. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Lori.
I don't really have anything. I'll just, say the same thing they did. Thank you, Mike, for all the hard work you're doing, because I know you're getting a lot done. And thinking in a way that a lot of people aren't in cities and people. So I appreciate that you're leading us through this, and same with you, Mayor. But nothing drastic to go on about. So.
All right.
Same. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mayor, for looking beyond just the immediate short term. Now, 22 other things. No, just one other thing. And Mike, you might have been asked about this. Did have an inquiry from a resident about. They're wondering, with more people being at home and ordering online, if there might be enough interest in having weekly recycling pickup. Called the city, was told the changes to the contract with Honey Creek would go through city council. They're happy to pay more. I know some other people in the city probably wouldn't, but they already have 2 recycling bins and usually have more than enough. So with people staying at home more and more, that does mean more trash, more things like that. So is there an option to find out what it would take recycling wise, not take? I mean,
so we want to go to a weekly recycle instead of the current.
They're asking, and
well, sure,
told them I'd bring it up. It'd be a matter of what would be cost, what would be.
Yeah. So the trash, recycling, bulk item pickup, brush dump, all of that has been completely unaffected. So that's the good news.
Yeah.
It would.
And large trash pickup is tomorrow. And our neighborhoods are definitely showing people have been home to put stuff out for
I'm glad it's not windy. We can look at it. We can have that discussion with Honey Creek to see what it would take.
I mean, if nothing else, if we can find out what the cost might be, and then at that point it may be, hey, that's not bad. It might be, no, that's not going to work. So
we'll talk.
I mean,
sure.
just an inquiry at least.
Yep, no problem.
And beyond that, that's all I got.
I'll follow up on that. I kind of got a comment from some friends and neighbors. Same thing. We're all overflowing on our recycle. They were extremely impressed that an additional recycle container only costs like $3.40 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "You're kidding me! Why isn't the city charging more than $3.40 a month for a recycle container?" So it is a really darn good deal to get another recycle container, actually. So I guess you kind of have to look at what would the cost of Honey Creek be versus, that got passed on to the consumer versus the cost of a recycle container.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if people know, maybe people don't realize they can get another one, and like you say, what the costs are. People may do it on their own.
You might push that out on our Facebook page that it's a really good deal to get another recycle container.
Yeah, and some are going to use it more than others. I mean, we don't use it for as much as we could, but I mean, obviously this family does because they've already got 2 recycle bins versus 1 trash can. So, but at least curious what the cost would be. But yeah, the actual containers are cheap for our residents.
Okay.
Look into it.
And it might be a good Facebook just to say, hey, now that you're home producing more trash, try and make sure we recycle appropriately.
Mayor, can I ask Mike?
Sure.
Mike, the contract that Brad wanted amended, is that something that you...
I've given it to the mayor.
Okay. Because I had talked to Brad that since it was authorized by council, the council probably ought to
we need
authorize that amendment.
Authorization on that? Okay. Let me pull it up. Sorry,
I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
catch me.
So the issue is on our CDBG project this year, the sidewalk project. We were notified by the CDBG administrators in down in the county that the prevailing wage rates that we had attached to that contract were 2 weeks old. And so we needed to incorporate the current prevailing wage rates at the time the contract was entered. And that requires a contract amendment. So I'll pull it up. Brad sent it to me this afternoon. So I'll pull it. Here it is. So the contract amendment's pretty simple. Just essentially incorporates the general decision from 6/7/19. I think the previous one was from a couple weeks earlier than that. So that's the issue at hand. Sorry, I didn't realize the council needed to approve that, Patrick.
Sorry, I
So if
mentioned
we
to
could,
Brad, but
if we could get a
It
motion,
doesn't change the contract amount
no,
or any other provision. It just updates the prevailing wage provisions in the contract.
yeah, it really is an administrative
So
thing.
you just need a motion to approve the.
Authorize the mayor to sign
Contract
the contract
amendment.
amendment.
I'll make a motion. We authorize the mayor to sign the contract amendment to the 3rd Street sidewalk improvements.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried.
Okay. I had two things. One was I think at the last meeting I gave everybody a copy of an ordinance that would, should this COVID situation become so severe that we couldn't meet and would have to suspend a meeting, if we adopted this ordinance, then we can continue to make our regular payments that we had already authorized in our budget. And I think everybody did the folks on the call get a version?
yes, I emailed that.
Okay.
Here.
So this ordinance is modeled after a template provided by the League of Kansas Municipalities, and it just would allow, as I said, the payments. Patrick, you want to?
Yeah, it as the mayor indicate, by statute, the city council, before any expenses or vendor claims are paid, you're supposed to meet as a body and approve those, and you do that by approving the pay ordinance. What this ordinance does is essentially suspend that and would allow, as long as there are expenditures that were in the budget that has already been approved, those are considered already appropriated, and that's being done without you having to have a council meeting and approve a pay ordinance. So,
And this would only come into play if for some reason we have to completely cancel a council meeting.
So as long as we can meet virtually or in person, still have meetings, it's not in play. It's only if it gets canceled.
And I don't know what the set of circumstances would arise that would create it. But
Well, if you had
two of
4
us get
people
sick.
with
Exactly.
COVID virus,
Two or more down with
two or
the
more
disease.
council members are down, then that would kick in. So,
So
are you wanting a motion for that tonight?
what's the ordinance?
Hang on just a second. I apologize. I wasn't aware of this, and I
Well.
don't have the ordinance number.
Patrick and I had this all worked out at 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah,
I
hours
apologize.
before the meeting.
You weren't in.
I'm sorry. Give me just 1 second to pull up my ordinance list. Patrick threw me under the bus. Ordinance number 2489.
Okay. I'll make a motion. We approve ordinance 2489, appropriating the amounts set up in each fund in the city budget for the remainder of calendar year 2020, providing for the payment of all claims and charges against the accounts provided for therein.
Second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not roll call, please.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion carried.
All right, thank you. I do have one other item, and it is we have a BZA meeting coming up, Board of Zoning Appeals. I think we're still at a count that would allow us to have the meeting, but I do have another person that I would like to appoint to that. I would like to appoint Robert Freeman to the BZA. Robert's a former council person from the early 2000s, and he has recently retired and expressed an interest in getting involved in some city activities again. So I would like your consent to appoint Robert to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll make a motion. We
Is it a motion or just?
I think I need a
It's a
motion,
motion
right?
to approve. Yeah.
Approve the mayor's appointment of Robert Freeman to the BZA.
That's exactly what I just. Yep. Right there, Lana.
All right.
I made that.
We have a
Thank you,
motion.
Lori.
Second.
I will second that.
Kevin
All
can.
right.
Then Mayor.
Roll call, please. I guess I could have done a call, but
Hold on just one second.
Throwing her under the
Keeping
bus
me on
again.
my toes tonight.
You get paid for your work
You can
tonight.
do it, Lana.
Ritter,
If you called me, yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Murdoch.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carried,
All right.
Mayor.
Thank you, council. I did have one other item. I was working on an address, and since I don't know how many people are watching the video. Oh, you don't have that.
Actually, I think I do. 2, including me.
Okay.
I think it's Steve
So
Chick.
one.
Pat Guilfoyle stopped watching.
I got less entertaining. I just was just to remind people that I think these next 2 weeks are going to be as critical as any in this challenge that we have and our need to slow down the spread, and just we need to redouble our efforts to maintain our social distancing, stay home if we can, plan our trips to the store so that we're not making trips to the grocery store more frequently than we really need to. Wash our hands. Thank you. Just do all the things right and that we can do as individuals so that we can keep ourselves safe, healthy, and keep things going forward. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey, great
you, Lori.
meeting. Thank you, everyone.